If the issue is that in so much art and culture we're cutting off women's faces, where essentially when you cut off a woman's face, you take away her voice, I wanted to bring back her voice. And I knew that in order to truly tell these women's stories, I needed not only the paintings, but also I needed a film component and actually give the audience an opportunity to listen to those women tell their story with their own words.
When I was second, third, fourth grade, we would always see the sixth grade band perform. And I would see these boys and girls playing instruments and creating something like as a team. And anytime I would see them perform, my eyes would go right to the drummer. And it was always a boy. But I was like, that is so cool. I wonder if I could do that. And I wanted to play so bad, and my parents said, no, why don't you play the flute like your girlfriends? And I was like, no. My teacher, he introduced me in the 8th grade concert as the aggressive Mona Tavakoli. And I played a solo, and after that show, my parents came up to me, and my dad's like, we're buying you a drum set. I have that drum set still, and that drum set now is in use at the Rock and Roll Camp for Girls LA that I co-founded. So I get to watch little girls play the drums for the first time and use my drum set. Being an Iranian and being raised by Iranian parents in America, it definitely informed my feeling like I wasn't allowed to play drums. And when I started playing with Jason Mraz, I acknowledged what that meant for a man at his level, was saying, my partner is going to be a woman of color playing cajon. I know the value of being a woman of color on a stage that size. I know it. Because when I see women of color on a stage that size, I'm like, oh, really? Wow, that's possible?
No more, no, I want to celebrate the whole world. I'm gonna make it mine, because I'm following your joy. I'm gonna make it.
All of my work has really strong narrative behind it. It's about somebody, it's about someone, it's about something. And I feel like this project, because finally I'm incorporating film, I'm interviewing my heroes, and I'm taking these important issues that matter so much to them and bringing those things to the forefront. And I feel like together they create a more cohesive depth and breadth to the project.
The work I do as an academic, writer, lecturer, and activist is centered at looking at the intersection of my Blackness and my womanhood. Two things that I certainly didn't choose, but they're two things that affect how I maneuver through the world every day.
I grew up in a very white suburb of Akron, Ohio, and I was often the only Black person in my class or on my soccer team or in my Girl Scout troop. And so that was a big part of my understanding of the world, was just existing in this way that both had nothing to do with race and everything to do with race. And it's really influenced my work, I think, now. It wasn't until I became an adult that I got kind of the frustration around books that I loved reading, like The Babysitter's Club. And there's literally not one Black character in them, and how I was going through life reading about stories that had nothing really to do with me as a Black girl, especially thinking about books like Little Women, just a lot of the classics that if I really was to logically place myself in this story, I would probably be a slave.
I've been sharing this story that I recently got a book from a woman she sells books on My Black in Brooklyn. It was called The Works of 19th Century Black Women, and it literally was a transcript of lectures from Black women doing anti-racism work in the 19th century. Mm-hmm. And what? Like, it's just our turn, like, it's just my turn to do what's always been done.
Mm-hmm. As far as the concrete, tangible work that I've been doing, it really started and took off after the Women's March. So Dana Sukow, she and I just decided that we wanted to go there, and so we decided to team up, and I think we just both had a visual of what type of photos we wanted to get while we were there, and that photo was one that was on the top of my mind because it was emulating and inspired by the Gloria Steinem and Dorothy Pittman photo that is iconic, and so I said that I wanted Dana and I to do that. So we got the photo, the next day we posted it, and it very quickly kind of was making its rounds. And then like everything changed. When the photo first made its rounds, it was to very white audiences. The overwhelming majority was really excited about the post. And then a few weeks later, Afropunk posted it to their majority audience of color, and I got a very, very different reaction where I was getting a lot of comments like, why were you even at that march? How could you trust that white woman next to you? What were you thinking? You look so silly out there. That kind of pushed me into doing my own study and my own research about how race had its play in the feminist movement. And as I began to learn more stuff, I just began to teach more stuff, and that's how I kind of got into this work as a writer and as a lecturer. I never claimed to be a deep expert, I just claimed to be someone who is learning deeply and willing to teach it in the best way that I can.
The idea of the color just going through is so cool. Wow. That's so cool. It's so cool.
In high school, I was like student body president. I was on the speech and debate team. Loved being on a team. I just loved helping each other improve. And then I went to college and I was looking for teams. I joined the marching band. Then I became an RA. That's where I met Reigning Jane, my band that I've been with since college.
For Mona in particular, in every one of her interviews, this theme kept coming up of teamwork, how it was so important for her to be part of a band, work in a team. It really was truly an act of teamwork that it took all of these people to create the art about the concept of teamwork. And I just love that here she looks so peaceful and her eyes are closed and she just gets to bask in the teamwork that she loves so much.
Oh, wow. That's so beautiful with the arms. Oh, total teamwork. The heart and soul of our rock and roll camp for girls is really role modeling. You know, the way that girls have been socialized is to be small and to take up as little room as possible and to be used and objectified in ways that we don't necessarily agree to. And at rock camp, I think it's, how do I create more space for you? How can you be louder? How can you be more expressed and show yourself wholly and fully? And sometimes we do that with screaming into a microphone, or sometimes we do that by opening our arms to our sisters and saying, I see you, I see you. And at camp, it's about making noise, being loud, taking up space, and all those things we were told and taught to be small and beautiful and quiet is now take it off and go for it. And know that you're gonna be held through the whole process and loved. And maybe because you've been loved in that real deep way, maybe then you can provide love for somebody else in that really deep way. So you're becoming a more conscious citizen. You're becoming a more conscious sister, a more conscious daughter, friend, student.
What makes Rachel so special is that she takes the truths that she sees in the world and she's able to speak about it and write about it in a way that other people can easily digest and understand. So I wanted to illustrate that concept where I painted her dominant hand and kind of those ideas that flow from what she sees and what she speaks out into the world to illustrate her impact.
Such a cool concept.
Stunning. Yeah.
That's really
it's
cool.
all inspired by you, so thank you.
Oh my gosh. Sarah Baba was working on a series called Sex and Takeout, where she was just shooting people nude with their favorite foods. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to be a part of that. So we did that shoot, and then I posted it because it was a great picture and I had a ton of fun and I wanted to talk about it, and I really, truly didn't think anything of it. It ended up, my entire comment section was people telling me how brave I was for posing nude, and I was so confused because you would have thought I ran into a fire and rescued a kitten. Like literally all I did was be okay with my body. That's all I did. The truth is all I did was not hate myself. And for society to think that not hating myself is the bravest thing I could be doing, that's a concern. What are you actually saying? You're not saying, I'm brave. You're saying, I would hate myself if I were you, and I can't believe you posted a photo like that. I have decided to not constantly be living to protect and coddle everyone else's projections and perceptions of my body in the world.
Beautiful.
It's interesting to think how all of these aspects of our personality that we've seen over time, over years, over ages, has come into play now as my career has kind of gotten settled. And I'm like, oh, now I understand why reading was important, why speaking was important, and why I never really had too much fear going up on stage to speak and things like that. And it's like, oh, I get it. This is the work I'm supposed to be doing, and it's all being braided into my existence today.
Playing the cajon. Get it, girl. Go, 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 go. Yeah, yeah. Kick it. Woo!
I love what being a woman means to my art. I love the way that I approach playing the drums as a woman. When I sit on the cajon, I'm dancing on it in a way that I know I'm using my hips. I'm using my femininity. I'm using my ferocity as a expressed woman to like go for it. I'm a drummer. I am a drummer flat out. But also, I love that I'm a woman of color who plays the drums. It informs a lot. I think it's great.